Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from Mauritanian TV. Now, today, we're having a very quick game of Interplanetary I Spy back in Gale Crater. But there's this story in the Mirror that just came up on my Google Alerts today, and it's titled Mini Martian Midget Empire Once Dominated Mars, UFO Spotter Claims. I think it was Scott Warren that sent this in, or they got it from his website or something. And he's saying here that he thinks that the Martian civilization may have been very, very small indeed, i.e., about 2 centimeters tall. Now, that I think is a bit too small. I could be wrong. There is plenty of evidence for a small civilization on Mars, but not quite as small as that, I think. And some of these architectural structures here and dilapidated and ruined buildings are quite small. But I don't think they're quite that small. So whether that scale's right or not, who's to say? I mean, there may be evidence yet to come to prove him right on this. I could be wrong. But from what I've found personally myself over the last year or two, including this guy, I'll give you a closer look at this guy in a minute, and other things like this elongated skull here, other stuff that I've published, like the spoon. These things seem like they would belong to a race of people that aren't as big as humans, but certainly are not 2 centimeters tall. This spoon itself is probably about 8 inches long, possibly somewhere between 5 and 8 inches, which is about the same size as a reasonable sized spoon that you would use on Earth to stir your soup or whatever. So based on the hundreds of things I've found so far, a lot of them are quite small, and it does seem pretty obvious after looking at all these images for so long over the last couple of years that the evidence is leaning towards them being quite small. But I'm saying they're a bit bigger than that, than 2 centimeters. I'm saying they're more like a foot tall. And I think there are at least three different types, or were three different types of Martians. Some around a foot tall, some around 3 foot tall, and some around 6 foot tall, like modern humans. And this is quite possible. It's quite possible there's a pygmy race. There could still be a pygmy race on Mars. It certainly looks like there was a pygmy race on Mars. Now, this guy here is from Sol 439. And I was sent this in by one of my research team, about a year and a half ago. And I made a couple of videos on this guy already. And I initially thought he was much taller. I thought he was a few foot or even 5 foot tall. But actually, when you look at this, if you look at the distance between the bottom of the photograph and this blue rock here, it's not very far away. It's probably only about 8 foot away. So this rock isn't very big. So if this rock is only 2 or 3 foot across, this guy stood behind it is no more than about 2 foot. So you can roughly approximate what sort of sizes we're looking at here. And also, you really need to sort of compare these images with other images to get a sense of scale. And if the rover tracks were in this image, they would probably be as wide as this rock. So this guy could actually only be 6 or 9 inches tall. My estimation is he's probably about a foot tall. I could be wrong. So if any of you guys have got a better way of working out the size of this, then please comment, because it's not easy. A lot of this is based on estimation and just experience looking at rover images. So right, here, I downloaded this, of course, and I've got it in my other I've got it in my graphics processor here. Here's the raw image. Nothing's been done to this. I'll just zoom into that for you. I've already selected it, and obviously it gets quite pixelated when you zoom in. It's not a brilliant quality image, but not as bad as some now. This was taken a couple of years back, so is actually slightly better than some of the newer images. But even with the raw image, you can see a light patch here that looks like a chin, and a sort of hat like a whaler would wear, like an oilskin almost, and this sort of brown, looks like brown leather or something, and you can see what looks like a shoulder here, and he's stood up, bolt upright, And you can even see, if you look real careful, there's a line straight down here, down the middle here, which looks like a zip on his jacket. Now, it may not be, of course. This could be a carving. It could be a random rock, although it's a completely different colour to the other rocks in the area, which leads me to believe that it's not a rock, because all the rocks in this area are this sort of bluish colour, which becomes a lot more obvious if you enhance the image. Now, this is a raw clip of that. Nothing's been done to this. I blurred it. I did blur it by sort of 1%, I think, just to get rid of the pixelation. Now, I'll enhance this a bit and see what we can drag out of it, because I've been meaning to go over this guy again, because this is one of the... Now, that's gone really... Let's white balance it first, because obviously these images are filtered, so you need to defilter them. We don't want to go too blue. Let's go that sort of colour. Now, that's probably nearer the actual real colour of this image. I do this to most images in my videos, and I always have the raw image first, and then I have the processed one next to it, so you can see the difference. And I really don't do much to them. There's not a lot you can do to them, because the Mastcam is only 1.5 megapixels anyway, so there's only so much you can drag out of these. So you can sort of sharpen them up a bit and play with the contrast a bit, but you can't go very far with it, because they're just not good enough. And this guy isn't very far away, so this really shows how poor the camera is on the Mastcam, and that's supposedly one of the better cameras on the Rover. So it just goes to show how poor it is. So let's zoom in a bit. So this is a bit blurred. I won't go in too far. Is this a chin here? You can see. Is this a hat he's wearing on top? Is this his left shoulder sticking out here? And could he be taking a leak behind this rock, like I suggested in the video? Who knows? I mean, this could be a carving. But why would a carving be just stood there behind a rock, looking like he's taking a leak or something? And how would it stay up? I mean, everything is wrecked on Mars, and when I see something stood bolt upright like this, it always makes me very suspicious, because what's actually holding it up? It's supposed to be very windy up there, although I haven't seen a great deal of evidence for that in Gale Crater, because it's a long way down, 4.5 kilometres down, so I wouldn't expect it to be quite as windy down there as it is on the surface further up. But yeah, so I've got the video here, and I've got some comparisons. Now, there's that article again. Okay, but there's, I mean, on my channel, there's dozens and dozens, or probably hundreds of artifacts and things like this spoon here. Let's play that a little bit. And there's what could be like a little shovel or scoop kind of thing here. But here's the spoon, and this is a raw image, and this has already been white balanced by NASA. This is from one of the large panoramic images at I think this is the John Klein image. There's links to all these under the videos. You can always look under the video, and the link will be there. So you can check these and download them yourself and have a look. Now, this spoon is normal size. This is the same sort of size spoon you'd expect to see, like a wooden spoon in your cupboard at home, in a drawer, that you would use to stir a pasta sauce or soup or something. This is probably about 9 inches long, possibly 6. Couldn't tell you exactly, but not much bigger than that, for sure. And there are lots of these things, and these implements, and there we are as a close-up. These implements are kind of scattered all over the place. If you look hard enough, you will find them, and I'm sure there are many more that I haven't seen, and many more to be found. This may or may not be a shovel, but it certainly looks like it's got a handle on it, and it's kind of lying facing away from us. So not really sure about that one, but I thought I'd show you that anyway. And the mini Martian theory is being scoffed by a lot of people, and I can see why. It's a bit hard to believe, but I don't think there was just one size, because I mean, this fossilized or encrusted freeze-dried skull here, which looks very much like a Peruvian skull from Nazca, is much bigger. I mean, it's bigger than a human skull. This is probably about 2 foot long. It could even be longer, because it's further away from the camera, but it still looks big. So this is on a completely different scale to that little guy behind the rock. This is like really quite large. It's at least 1.5 long, and could be as much as 2 foot or even longer. I estimate it to be about 2 foot long, or between 18 inches and 24 inches. So there we are, and looks very, very similar to ones you see in Peru, and it's large. So there we are. There's the comparison. If you compare them to this guy, I mean, it's got the same morphology, almost the same shape, the same sort of shaped eye socket there, with a sort of lump on the back of the head here. It's uncannily similar to some on Earth. So there may have been multiple different races and different sized people on Mars at some point in the past, and there may even still be some very small ones left. Perhaps if there was a cataclysm on Mars, and it certainly looks like there was, maybe only the little guys survived. Perhaps they live underground and live in sort of little underground dwellings that are not usually visible to the rover, and they could just pop down a hole somewhere. We don't know. But let's have another real close look at this guy, because I mean, I estimate this guy to be about a foot tall, and he could be 1.5 foot. He could only be 9 inches. So he is small. But is it a guy? Is it really a guy? Is it something else? It's very, very difficult to determine when you don't have enough resolution in the image to tell, because there's just not enough detail here to really tell. But it's certainly a posture of someone stood behind a rock. And like some of my other videos, another find recently, where is he? You got that one? Oh, Mars Man Walking. Now, this is one I published about a week ago. Now, this is also an upright looking alien humanoid type person on Mars in Gale Crater, not that far away from the guy I just showed you. But this guy hasn't moved. Now, I very carefully went over the images from this set, which is 590, I think. So I went through 589 and also went through 591, and you can, it's a bit further away, but you can still see this guy stood up on the bottom of a sort of hill, looking as if he's walking away towards Mount Sharp. But he hasn't moved the day before and the day after, so he cannot possibly be a humanoid. So this is why I very quickly changed the title of this guy to I put the word statue in the title, because he hasn't moved. So this guy is not walking, even though he looks like he's walking, and has the walking posture of what looks similar to a monk wearing a long robe, walking up the side of a hill over some rocks. This guy, I mean, the posture is uncannily similar, but he's not moving, so he must be carved. It must be a figurine. This guy's possibly only 2 or 3 foot tall. So this guy is bigger than the one here. But this guy is most likely a carving or statuette that's probably only 2 foot tall, possibly only 1 foot tall, but I think more like 2 foot tall with this guy. It's hard to say with this one because he's much further away and even more blurry. And I mean, this may be a misinterpretation, but this certainly looks like a knee, and this looks like an arm sticking out, and a white head here. And who knows? I mean, when it zooms out, it actually looks clearer when it zooms back out again, as you can see, just there. And that goes to show, and it doesn't really get across how far away it is. He's about 50 meters away from the rover, a long way off for a low res camera. So the scale is similar, but the problem is some of the carvings we're seeing up there are really quite large. Now, the size of carvings is no way to judge the size of the people that made the carvings. In Egypt, for instance, you have let's play that a bit more. In Egypt, for instance, you have giant carved statues. That doesn't mean the people that made them were giants. And you also have very small statuettes that were put into tombs, which were only probably 10 inches long or 12 inches long, various gods and various creatures and things like that. So the size of carvings and the size of artwork isn't really a very good way of judging the size of the people that did that artwork. So it's almost impossible to say. But from what I found in the last couple of years, and I found a lot of stuff, and a lot of people have sent me in stuff as well, and lots of people out there like Will It What's Up in the Sky 37 channel and other people have found all manner of sized objects, and a lot of them are quite small. But I don't think the Martians were only 2 centimeters tall, because that's below the resolution of the camera, especially at any sort of distance. And you're not, unless they're right up in front of the rover, only a couple of feet away, you're not going to see them. So it's impossible to actually verify that there are Martians that are only 2 centimeters tall or an inch tall or something. It doesn't seem like it would make sense to me. And even if there were, they would not show up. Now, this guy's a couple of feet tall, and he only just shows up in the image because he's too far away. And this is often the problem. A lot of these things are just not close enough. This guy is fairly close, but still looks small. So there we go. Let's let that play through a little bit, because it does get, there are some enhancements on here. So there we go. And yeah, I wasn't taking the mick with this video. I just said what it looked like he was doing behind this rock, and that's exactly what he does look like he's doing. Why else would you be in that posture behind a rock? I can't think of many other things that you would be doing behind a rock. So forgive me for my rather flippant text in this video, but I'm just saying what I see, and that's my interpretation. And in fact, the guy that sent me it agreed with me straight away when I said to him what I thought the guy was doing, and that's what I went with. And I've had a bit of stick for that, but hey, so what? Say what you see. That's all you can do with these images. I mean, this may not be a guy at all. This could be just a rock, but it certainly looks like a guy. And I've been looking for him in other sets of images, and I can't find him. So he may not actually still be there, which means he's moved. Now, what I'll do, I'll do some more research later on today and look at all the adjacent images to this set here. So I'll go to Sol 440 and I'll go to 438 as well, and I'll see if I can spot this same rock here and see if he's still there, because often the same spot will be photographed the day before or the day after, or even a few days before or a few days after, because the rover doesn't really move much. So if I find out anything else about this guy, I will put it in the description below, and also I'll put some extra clips in the end of the video. But if you don't see any extra clips of him in the end of the video, it means I didn't find him. But I will try and put some sort of explanation for that in the description. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you soon.